Welcome to the Guided Expressions podcast with Martin Williams, the place to learn and be inspired to live your best life. Here is your host, Martin Williams.
Hello, everyone. My name is Martin Williams. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Guided Expressions podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast by going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast. You can also check out the podcast on YouTube as well as SoundCloud. All the links to the podcast can be found at guidedexpressions.com/podcast. Today, what I wanted to talk to you about is living in the present moment. Now, we've heard a lot about this over the years. A lot of people have written books about it, the power of staying in the present moment. But I think a lot of people still struggle with it, especially in our time where we have so much distraction, so many things that are pulling on our attention that it can be easy to forget that everything we need is in the present moment. And I really want to start there. The present moment possesses everything that we need, everything that we want, everything that we're going after is in the present moment, right? And if you're not in the present moment, you're not going to be able to rendezvous with the things that you desire, the health you want, the abundance that you want, the relationships that you want, the spiritual growth that you want. It all exists in the present moment. And if we don't live in the present moment, if we continually live in yesterday or tomorrow, we're not going to experience all that the present has to offer. Now, you might say, how does that relate to visualization, which is something that I teach? And I'm a huge believer of visualization. You know, I'm writing a book about it. I am developing courses around it. And I do believe wholeheartedly that visualization can change lives. But it's important that we don't stay in visualization. When I talk about visualizing, usually I'm talking about visualizing anywhere from 5 to 10, at the max 15 minutes a day. That leaves a lot of time to actually live life. One of the reasons that I think visualization is a good tool is that, number one, it doesn't take all day. And number two, it prepares our mind. It's kind of like prepping the soil to plant something. It prepares our mind to plant the things that we really want to experience in our lives. Everything does come from the mind. And I think it's important that we recognize that as well. If you don't do anything with your mind, you can act, but you won't act in the direction that you truly need to. I think that a lot of times people jump out and they act and they do things, but they don't really think about what they're doing. Okay. So it's important also that we don't ignore the power of the mind, because the mind is powerful. But at the end of the day, what we have to understand is that mindset is all about taking on the mind of the person that you want to be. So if you want to be a successful business owner, mindset is all about taking on that mind of a successful business owner before you even get there, right? So here's a great example. Let's say that you want to be a successful real estate agent, all right? And so, you know, you're going into a new field. You're going to the field of real estate, and you haven't been a real estate agent before. So you're more or less starting from scratch. And you have all these people telling you what you have to do. They're telling you what books to read, what courses to attend. And all those courses have benefits. All those courses have pointers and things of that nature. But the bottom line is that you know, and I know, that we become better by doing, right? We become better by taking action. So you can take every course there is known to man, but until you take action and learn yourself, you're probably not going to become a very good real estate agent. So what you do is that you take the courses and you learn all of the lingo and you get your license and now you're ready to start showing properties and hopefully sell properties. How do you get from not knowing anything about real estate to selling properties, which is what you want to do? You want to get to a place where you sell properties. The best thing to do is to get from being a real estate novice to being a real estate expert as quickly as possible. And the way you do that is that you execute quickly. So as soon that the minute you get your license and you're able to start showing properties, when I say showing properties, I'm talking about bidding on a listing and getting a listing, right? So the moment that you get your first listing, you go all out, right? You execute. And understanding that because it's your first time, you're probably not going to get everything right. So in the present moment, you are executing, you're calling people, you're networking, you're asking everyone that you know that is in the market for real estate, hey, have you looked at my property yet? Or do you know anyone that's looking for a property? Right? You're staying in the moment. You're engaged. You're doing and doing and doing because, again, this is how you learn. Okay? This is how you learn. Now, you may say, okay, well, what if it doesn't work? That's the wrong mindset to have. If you have the mindset of what if it doesn't work, what it's going to do is that it's going to start working against the mindset of a successful real estate agent. The successful real estate agent doesn't think about whether it's going to work or not. The successful real estate agent is executing, okay? Because they have a belief that they're going to sell this property. They have a belief that they're going to get the listing. So they don't think about how it's not going to work, okay? Because that's going to affect their action, right? Success is 80 to 90% mindset, right? That's 100% true. But that 20% of action is going to get you 80% of your results. If you understand the 80 to 20 principle, the 80-20 principle, or it's also called the Pareto principle, says that 20% of your actions determine 80% of your results. Right? So 80% of your results as a real estate agent come from that 20% of actually taking action. Okay. Now it's important that, the 20% actually comes from the mindset part, right? So it's mindset that you're doing. When you talk about 24 hours in a day, you shouldn't be spending more than 20% of your day on mindset. Okay? Because you have to take action at some point. So when you start taking action, right? When you start jumping out and taking action, the only thing you're thinking about is it's going to succeed, right? There's no thought of failure, right? The more you think about failure, the less likely you're going to succeed, okay? In the present moment, are you failing? Yes or no? And the answer is no, okay? The answer is no. In the present moment right now, let's say that you're trying to get a property and you're calling people. In that moment, in that exact moment, you're not failing, okay? You're not failing. So why would you think about it? Does that make sense? Why would you think about failing? Because in that moment, you're not failing. In that moment, you're just doing the things that you need to do to get the listing and to get the property sold. So you're not failing. So if you're not failing, then stop thinking about failing. Because the more you think about failing, the more you bring that failure upon yourself. And this is amazingly simple, but this is something that so many people really overlook because, it's how we're trained, in school. we're giving grades, right? We're giving A, B, C, D, and F. And I know that in modern day schools, the grading systems have changed somewhat, but when I grew up, it was 5 grades. You got A, B, C, D, and F, right? So if you are someone who got a lot of D's and F's in school, you may have the mindset of being afraid to fail, because when you failed in school, what happened? You were reprimanded, you were given warnings, and in rare cases, you got kicked out of school, right, for failing. Okay. So that it's that thought of failure. So many people have that thought of failure, that fear of failure, because failure, brings really bad circumstances. Like if you fail at a job, you let go. So, if you don't perform at a high level at a job, you let go. And then, that's a source of income that goes away with it. Right. So failure is a negative thing. Right. I don't pretend that failure is positive, because there's some people that say, failure is a good thing. And, we can have that debate someday, but, for the sake of what we're talking about today, failure is a negative thing. Right. But here's the thing. If you think about failure, you're much more likely to experience it, especially if you get emotionally involved with the thought. You're much more likely to experience failure on a consistent basis because it's all you think about, right? Most people are afraid to step out and do what it is that they want to do, what they truly want to do, because they're afraid they're going to fail. And there's no reason to be afraid of failure, because at that moment that you're acting, there's no failure happening. You're just taking action, right? You're just taking action. Okay. So there's no reason to fear failure. Okay. The thought of failure brings the reality of failure. Okay. But in the same way, the thought of success brings success. But you don't even have to think about, this is the amazing thing, you don't even have to think about success to bring success. You just have to keep going, right? Simply not allowing failure to enter into your mind is enough to succeed. It really is. Because all you're going to do is just keep moving and keep going. And as long as you can not allow the thought of failure to come in when you don't see anything happening right away, then you will eventually succeed. I hope I'm making sense. At the end of the day, what you have to decide, what we all have to decide, is that we got to decide to stay in the present moment. We got to decide to stay in the now and then act, and then understand that as long as we're moving forward in the thing that we want to do, as long as we are moving in the direction of our success, it's only a matter of time that we will reap the benefits of our actions. When you make a decision to act and then you act, it produces a result. Now, the result may not be what you want, but as long as you continue to do those two things, decide then act, eventually the results are going to get better, because you're going to learn, and you're going to learn what to do, what not to do. So if there's something that you haven't been doing or you've been putting off, stop putting it off. Today, start doing that thing that you've not been wanting to do because of a fear of failure. Just go and start doing it. And what you'll find is that the knowledge that you need will come along and meet you on the way to wherever it is you want to go. Stay in the present moment. Don't try to look ahead as far as, well, this isn't going to work. The reality is you don't know what's going to work. You don't know what's going to work until you actually do it. So go and do it. And then, if it doesn't work, deal with it later. But don't think about it. Don't overthink yourself into inaction, which is what so many people do. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. My name is Martin Williams, and I will talk to you soon.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Guided Expressions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify to get all the latest content from Guided Expressions. No one builds a house without a blueprint, so why are you trying to build your dream life without one? That's how the Blueprint course was created. The Blueprint course is for people who know they were meant for more. Created by Martin Williams, the Blueprint is a streamlined way to help you create the life you've always wanted. Get instant access now by clicking the link in the description box or going to guidedexpressions.com/blueprint.